Hey, hey.
What's going on?
Doing well, man. Doing well. How you today?
I'm doing all right. Are we ready to get started?
Definitely. Like, finally, after hours of preparation and troubleshooting here.
Yeah. Understanding what an input and what an output is.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I hear you, Josiah?
I don't know. Is that a verb, an adjective, adverb? What's going on here? Like, yeah, I
No, I
didn't.
just had to put my ear to the microphone because that's how that works.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best
All
way to
right.
do it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Austin,
My name is Josiah.
and we are the
Super
Super
Cinema
Cinema Bro.
Bros.
All right. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Doing good. It's a nice day, summer day. Is it summer yet? Maybe it is. It's summer basically in California.
I think
Um,
so.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think by the middle of June it's considered summer or something like that.
It should be. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
not been looking at the calendar. I always forget. Yeah, I always feel like summer starts sometimes in April, and then obviously, yeah, we wind up having cooler weather. Anyways,
Yeah,
it's a good day. Nice light outside coming through the leaves and trees. Mhm.
for sure.
Mhm. It's that kinda optimistic sort of a vibe, you know?
Yeah. It's the kind of vibe that, just has you pondering and just being in a contemplative, reflective mood.
Mm,
Um,
mm, mhm.
thinking a lot about thinking a lot about Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. And yeah. Hey, how about we
What
review
type of
that today?
saga was that? Yeah, oh, that actually would be good. I missed what kind of saga that was, though, like, I don't even
It's a
know.
Mad Max saga.
Hmm,
At least it is according to the poster.
okay,
And maybe a cameo. We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
okay.
But all right. So
Let's do it,
today on the
yeah.
docket, today on the docket we have George Miller's Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Uh, do you want to do the pleasure and the honors of summarizing this movie,
Jeez. Yes.
or do you want me to try to do it?
Hmm. I'll
Let's
give it a
make it a
go.
90-second synopsis.
90 seconds? Okay. Alright
90
then,
seconds.
let's do
Let's
this.
see
Let's
let's
do
see
this.
let's see if it can be done.
I'll make a good attempt. All right. I've not thought about this movie for weeks now. Sorry, it's been a few weeks since I've watched it. But, anyways, I'm eating up time at the moment. All right. So, Mad Max Saga. Let's start there. Start there. Mad Max, an already established franchise, post-apocalyptic, crazy, weird, strange people and vehicles, action. That's kind of what happens across all these movies. Bizarre tale, typically characters are driving from point A to point P to point C, point D, so on and so forth. You got action, you got intrigue, you got sometimes romance all along. Now, for this movie, we had met Furiosa already in the previous film, Fury Road, from almost like a decade ago. And we
Was
knew,
it that long ago?
I mean, it was like 2015. No, yeah, it was like 2015
Sheesh.
or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Goodness. All
we
right.
met this girl, this woman Furiosa. She's a girl in this film early on, um, in there, and yeah, we just know her by characterized by Charlize Theron. She's this totally amazing sort of strong badass kind of a character that is driving the big tanker, but she's got some other schemes and plans against the villain of that film. She winds up helping out Mad Max a bit, but anyways, this movie happens. It's like her entire life basically before that film. I'll get into that later. Anyways, we meet her as a young girl. She lives in a female sort of utopian society. There are some bikers, a part of a nearby roving sort of gang led by Chris Hemsworth's character. That I don't even remember what they were there for, but they probably came across like the lush greenery and kind of are making a stop. Anyways, Furiosa's character gets kidnapped. Her mom chases her down. Her mom winds up kind of saving her, but then they both get caught. Furiosa is then raised more or less for a little bit by Hemsworth's character. Hemsworth's character comes across the giant I forgot what Citadel s kind of location that we learn of in Mad Max that is run by what's his name with the blonde hair, um Abaddon the Despoiler. No, it's not Abaddon the Despoiler. Um, I'll
Scuba mask with the
scoop
white hair.
him. Yeah. So, uh, there's this big citadel of gigantic cliffs that has a lush forest basically on the top, and it is the capital of this area. And it has two other partner locations for bullets, for oil. I think the main one has water. Anyways, long story short, throughout the movie, Furiosa is trying to capture and kill Hemsworth's character. He Hemsworth's character is just trying to like establish power and control, but he winds up losing that power and control. And yeah, along the way, we see Furiosa wind up growing in her capabilities. Um, yeah, by the end of the film, she more or less gets what she wants, and then we see a really short like montage of what kind of happens in the next movie. Um, so yeah, it's predominantly a revenge film, Furiosa trying to track down Hemsworth's character. Um, which we will find out in just the names of these characters in a few. Yeah, that's more or less kind of what happens in the film.
Yeah, it's an origin story. I would say it's an origin story that we may or may not have needed in the first place.
What?
I guess I guess that's up for debate. I guess
Oh,
if you really liked
yes.
Furiosa, maybe you'd be excited to see a origin story, backstory for her. But this kind of, for me, before we even talk about the movie, I
Hmm.
think this is a good thing to just kind of touch on. It's like, number one, do all characters need a backstory?
Hmm. Hmm.
And then, depending on how you answer that, the second question would be, which characters need a background story?
Hmm. Yeah.
I went into this movie wanting to see the practical special effects. I wanted to see the things that I enjoyed in the first, uh, not in the first installment. Obviously, there's Mad Max, there's Road Warrior, there's Thunderdome, and then there's Fury Road. I wanted to see the things that I enjoyed in Fury Road
Yeah.
in this movie again. Hopefully different. Hopefully a different take of it, something different, different
Yeah.
camera angles, different stunts,
Hmm.
just so it's
Mm-hmm.
not a rehash, you know, beat for beat of Fury Road, which itself is a
Sure.
great movie.
Yeah, it really
Uh,
was.
and so I was hopeful that I would see some of that. Um, it wasn't because I was really intrigued or invested or interested in the backstory of the character Furiosa.
Hmm.
And so I think certain characters and certain stories benefit from a backstory.
Sure.
Uh, and then others, it's like not so much. I mean, from Fury Road, you can kind of gather that whatever her backstory was, you know, times were a tough, and she didn't have it easy. There was no. I was never wondering. Wow, did Furiosa have a rough upbringing?
Hmm.
I
Sure.
assumed that she did.
Yeah.
They're in a dystopian desert hellscape. You
Indeed.
know,
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
who had a good upbringing in that environment?
Hmm.
And so
Well, maybe Chris Hemsworth's Doctor Dementis did.
you mean not Thor with the nose piece? Chris Hemsworth?
Hmm.
Definitely not Thor.
Thor, god of circus mastering.
Oh boy. Yeah, with the accent.
Hmm.
All right, we'll get into that
Well,
too.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
yeah, exactly. What did you like about this film?
yeah. So if I accept the premise that, or if I just like, all right, let me check out her backstory. What I liked about it was it kept the same visual aesthetic as Fury Road. So visually, what works in this movie are the same types of things that work in Fury Road. Um, I thought the kind of there was two oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah. That was unintentional, ladies and gentlemen.
You're just too
Um,
excited about this
there
movie.
were two major set pieces, I believe. One was the first caravan, and then the other one it was just Furiosa and her guy companion, and they're going into like the factory or the mill, the steel mill where the bullets are made or something like that.
Yeah, the Bullet Farm.
And they're two set pieces, and I thought the
Hmm.
action in those two set pieces was done really well.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
Even if certain things from a narrative standpoint didn't make as much sense, and we can get into that in a minute. Um, as far as like the action, as far as the pacing, the editing, the camera angles, and those types of
Yeah.
components, I thought they were done well. And it wasn't just a lazy rehash of Fury Road. There's no replacement for having Mad Max like propped up with his head in a cage, just hoping that he
Yeah.
doesn't die while all the
Uh-huh.
things are happening around them, and he's just kind of helpless to do anything about it because he's just chained and strapped to this harness, and
Hmm.
his neck is in a vice kind of thing, and he's in a cage, and everything's happening around him.
Man,
Um,
yeah.
Brilliant, right? And just
It
the way
really
it was all
was. It
executed.
really was. I mean,
Quick,
everything about that
wicked.
situation was like was
Yeah,
terrifying. I mean, even if he wasn't getting hit by weapons and stuff like that,
right.
like being in the front of a vehicle, like bugs and dirt and rocks and all
Yeah,
that stuff, like anything could be like just putting holes in your body.
yeah. It's as precarious as it is perilous.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that he wasn't the one doing all the action. He was the one just kind of like hoping not to die.
Yeah.
Um, and for some reason, I really like when he had the nail file and he was trying to like take the thing off. That like, I don't know that whole like, I'll just do anything I got to do to get this thing off. I'll have to get a nail file or whatever. Like
Hmm.
that whole thing worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing on this
Definitely.
movie that reaches the heights because they had like the big boombox thing and the guy was playing and the flame
Yeah.
throwing. It was crazy in that
Doof
in
Warrior.
Fury
Yes.
Road,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was
Uh huh.
awesome. And it was like a return to form for practical stunts and practical
Oh,
effects and all of
definitely.
that jazz.
Yes. Yes.
This movie, this movie felt a little bit. I want to make sure I don't confuse George Miller with Frank Miller when I'm thinking
Uh
about 300 and the kind of the visual, like the sepia tone visual
that's
aesthetic
Frank
of
Miller. Yeah.
300. That's Frank Miller.
Well,
But
so,
I almost feel like there's some,
Zack Snyder, Frank Miller. Yeah.
yeah, there's some similarities visually between those movies. Also 300 Rise of the Empire, which the sequel that I saw years later, that was actually okay. It was actually a
Hmm.
halfway decent sequel. I didn't see it
Yeah.
in theaters at the time. It kind of came and went, and nobody there was not much fanfare about it.
Yeah. I
It
actually
couldn't live
never
up to the
watched it myself. Yeah.
yeah, it couldn't live up to the original 300. That movie is a film and an experience unto itself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
It's a moment in time.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so but thematically and I feel like those movies they both use CGI in the same kinds of ways, somewhat
Mm.
sparingly, but like it kind of looked the same. I kind of kept feeling like I was watching 300 in some scenes.
Mm.
Um
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
that
The
works.
CG is yeah. It's a
It was sparing. It was kind of like
Mhm.
slow motion, that kind of thing, or like those like dramatic zoom ins and pan outs.
Yeah,
You know,
I remember that.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. So a lot of that was CGI, or
They were thinking about, the movie being shown in 3D in theaters.
yeah. Look at us. We're made for IMAX.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And so there's that. But again, I thought as far as the visual aesthetic and the way that it was presented, I thought that was good.
yeah.
Um, the acting is fine with Chris Hemsworth being an asterisk. Um, he- did you ever see The Love Guru with Mike Myers? For some
I
reason, it kind
actually
of
never
reminds me
wanted
of
to
The Love
watch that
Guru.
movie. I never watched
It is not a good movie. It is it is
it.
bad. It's like
Hmm.
it's like the cheesiest parts of the Austin Powers movies in terms of him playing a character,
Yeah.
but that's all it is, and it's a The Love Guru is a bad, bad, bad movie.
It's supposed
Like
to
I
be,
don't watch it.
intentionally, cringy.
He was trying to ride the Austin Powers wave, but the story and the characters, they all sucked and it just wasn't good. It was just a complete miss.
Yeah.
Um, but Chris Hemsworth kind of reminds me of the Love Guru. Like he's kind of like this kind of he's like this aspiring hippie, but he's like a warlord at the same time.
Mm.
And the
Mhm.
prosthetic nose is just like ever
Mm.
present.
It really is. Yeah.
Uh, it's like Maestro, the Netflix one with
Yeah.
what's his
Yeah.
name?
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper. Um, Now he got in some trouble for that prosthetic nose for depictions of Jewish people
Oh,
and all that
really? Oh,
stuff.
I didn't know.
Yeah, that people didn't like the large nose, and
I
he
mean, did
caught
it
some
not
flack
look
for
like
that.
the actual guy?
I don't remember. I know they showed footage of the actual concert footage of the actual guy,
Yeah.
and I didn't come away feeling like they looked like the same person.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I
Yeah.
don't. I honestly, I don't recall. I don't remember.
Oh boy. So
But
Hemsworth did not
but
get caught on the on
he just has like
uh
this giant schnoz, and
it's
he's not.
kind
I
of
mean,
like orangish. All it's like it's not like the same
yeah, it's just
color.
weird. It's off-putting almost because it's different. It's a different hue than the rest of his face,
I guess what they were
and
going
there's
for was
no.
like sunburnt, like his nose is sunburnt, like someone like
Yeah,
at the beach all the time.
and I just want to be very clear. Like everybody is there's 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 what I was saying about Bradley Cooper and Maestro regarding stereotypes about Jewish people and their noses. That's not really present in this movie. There's no Jew or Gentile distinction in this film. Um, it's just a bunch of white folks. So that's not. I don't want to confuse that issue with Maestro with what's going on in this. But
I don't.
there is a
Yeah,
prosthetic
I didn't
nose.
get that. I didn't get that. I appreciate
Okay, I just
the
want to.
clarification.
I was just hearing myself saying. I was like, hey, let me just make a very clear distinction that
You're
that's
like,
not.
wow, I didn't realize Furiosa was anti-Semitic. Man, now
Yeah,
that I
like
really
no,
look.
it's not. No, again, there was no Jew or Gentile distinction in any way, shape, or form in this movie.
Hmm.
It doesn't really
Hmm.
have any place because everybody's just kind of like there's a couple black people, but it was mostly just white folks. And
I mean,
so
this place might be hell anyway, so like
who knows? I
it
don't
doesn't
know.
matter. It doesn't matter what they're Jews or
Yeah, it really
Gentiles.
doesn't. It really doesn't. It's a dog eat dog world. Everybody's getting mistreated. It really doesn't matter, right? Everybody's
Uh-huh.
miserable. It's bad for everybody.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
if you can get past the prosthetic nose piece and his very apparent accent, look at me, I'm not Thor accent,
Yeah.
because he kind of looks like Thor. His
I mean, look
outfit
at
is
that.
very
Yeah,
Thor.
they
Like
like
if you guys see I'm not sure which side it is.
It's on this
I
side.
can't
Yeah,
tell,
yeah. Uh-huh.
but yeah, like he very much looks like Thor. This could have been a Thor Ragnarok poster or Thor Love and Thunder, right? Minus the gut, right? If you
Mhm.
can, if you can accept that, then the acting's pretty solid all around, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people have like a lot of the major people have a lot of makeup and stuff. So like, are they really acting well, or is it just good prosthetics and makeup? Eh,
Mm.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But everybody's playing these outlandish, exaggerated, extreme types of characters. I kind of feel like in movies like that, the acting's kind of easy because you don't really have to show any subtlety or nuance. And
Yeah.
in him, and in Hemsworth's credit,
Mhm.
there's a scene at the end where it's just him and Furiosa. and the acting between the two of them is actually really solid. So
Yeah,
I'll give him kudos for that scene
definitely.
at the
Yeah.
end. But yeah, most of what I liked about this movie was just the visual presentation.
Yeah.
And so um again, the acting is fine. Nothing Oscar worthy, nothing really stand out for good reasons, right?
Mm.
But you know, Anya Joy Taylor, what is that her name?
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Anya Taylor Joy. Um she does a fine job.
Mhm.
I don't think she
Yeah.
does a very convincing job of being a boy. Um, but that's for
Well,
reasons that she can't help. She has the body of a woman, you know, a
um
skinny, borderline frail woman, you know. Um,
yeah, they
and
do
most of
point
her
out
acting
that
like a
this
boy.
character is like weak. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
this boy's
And
weak.
yeah, and most of her characterization as a boy is just her wearing something over her face. So, whatever. Um, but yeah, the action scenes were pretty good, pretty solid,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
the visual presentation was good. So those
Yeah.
are kind of my main pluses for it. How about you?
Yeah. Okay, so quite a long movie, but I think that one pacing wise, I was mm, I'll agree with you. I did enjoy the
Yeah.
action.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I think the acting was well at the very beginning once her character was captured and we started hearing some of Dr. Dementis's goons and they all had like weird voices and like that kind of stuff. It took me for a moment to like re-remember that people in this world might sound like that, might come across as like very bizarre. And for a second there I was like, whoa, I forgot how like bizarre, weird, kind of quirky, pushed all of these performances were. And I almost part of me almost doesn't even remember that being specifically the case for like any old person in Fury Road. But yeah, I guess part of the challenge is, yeah, I guess they all were super weird
Everyone just seemed
overall.
like Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Like,
Besides,
they all they all just kind of act like that. I don't
uh
know.
huh, yeah. Besides Max, who I guess is kind of like the most normal sort of character in at least Fury Road. Besides, some quirks that he has. Maybe that's the intention for him to be the audience's or avatar in a way that we're able to like step into the world through this guy who's like almost normal but not quite because he's grown up in this situation.
Right.
But he's at least not as weird and bizarre in his performance as everybody else. Which same thing happened with Furiosa here. Her mom was really cool, but obviously they wrote her mom to be an absolute unit as far as hunting, people down. So there are some story plot contrivances though connected to that as well. So yes, going back, the action was cool. I thought I was immersed into the world overall. It felt like I was in another place. It didn't feel as if I was just watching a bunch of people acting, a bunch of people being filmed in odd locations. So I believed the universe. I did wind up having fun with Hemsworth's character, but as to what you're saying, it took me a moment to also recognize, okay, he's doing a bit, he's doing a voice. Let me go along with it, and letting myself go along with it. I wound up having fun with it, but it is very noticeable, and it's something that if you can't just overcome what it is, you could just be caught on that for most of the movie. And yeah, there
Yeah.
were some moments between the two of them that were especially good acting wise, especially in the last later half of the film. So, and then some themes that I thought were interesting to portray on screen. Obviously, this kind of scenario, they don't always like painting people as completely black and white, which I think is fine. But even like his character, I think it's sort of fascinating in some way that he one didn't have it all together, but you could see that he was trying to figure out like what he was even doing, what he was even going for along the way. So I think I liked that his character wasn't just I already have this mastermind plan of like what I want to achieve and what and how it's going to go down, and the protagonist is either going to stop me or not stop me. So I thought that it was nice to have some nuance and confusion even with his character.
Hmm. Okay. Anything else that kind of sticks out? Um,
Cinematography, I could only imagine how challenging it would be to capture, especially in the action scenes, everything that they need to, within the lens, within camera. Obviously, they had to have choreographed things a good amount to make sure that not only the actors were hitting their marks, but the cameraman was also like making sure they were hitting their whatever marks they had to as well to make sure that things weren't leaving frame and entering frame oddly. So it felt very, very well handled in that regard. And I know part of that also is attributed to I think George Miller typically winds up doing a good amount of storyboarding and pre-production figuring out of all these kind of the entire film overall, kind of similar to maybe what Hitchcock did, and obviously other people do as well.
right.
Yeah, that I'd say that's the stuff that was cool, and I think visually it looks like it's a modern film. It looks as well as I would expect it to look as a modern film. It didn't look over CGified, thankfully. And by comparison, when they did show some of the Fury Road scenes, I think colors and some of the other elements in the design of this movie look potentially better than that one did. But then again, they did have some filters, I think, over the scenes that they when they would show from Fury Road. So it's kind of completely it's not easy for me to say like, oh, this one looks 15% better than what that one looked. I'd have to go back and look at Fury Road to really make a good comparison. I
Right.
think the I think overall the action and hmm, it
Do
was
you think
well
Manning was
shot.
as good
It
as
was
Fury Road, or is it lesser than, or about the same? What do you think?
so technically I think it could be better as far as
Oh, really?
being shot. Well, being shot in 4K, the color grading, potentially
Hmm.
even the action set piece moments may have been captured better, but the biggest asterisk to that is Fury Road did the awesome thing of trying to give us sort of this straightforward one shot vibe or approach for a lot of what happened in that movie. And I think this movie is able to. It did have cuts, and don't get me wrong, it did have cuts. Fury Road felt like it was like one long sequence almost for most of the movie.
Right.
Some scenes almost felt like they were just a continuous shot as well with very few cuts. This movie doesn't try to attempt to do that, so it's able to get away with more things and more cuts. And so by
Yeah.
doing that, you're
A
able
lot of
to
jump
have
cuts. Yeah.
yeah, you're able to like reset things and really more fine tune the exact shots that you want because you have the benefit of okay, we can stop this, do it again, get another shot. Okay, I'm gonna take shot 5 from this take, and then I'm gonna take shot 3 from for this next shot for for that take, and just put together all of the best moments. I'm sure that happened to some degree, yeah, with Fury Road as well, but I think it's just more challenging when you're going for more continuous shots and an overall
Yeah.
feel of like just one long sequence. So this movie has
Yeah.
the benefit of editing and takes and stuff.
Right. I think that's true, but it's like out of necessity. like in Fury Road, as I recall, most of the things were just kind of happening in the outside, right? In Furiosa, like half the action was split between what was happening outside the big tanker, and then Furiosa was like underneath the undercarriage. And
Mm,
so,
mhm.
unless you're gonna have a crane that's gonna go down and then
Yeah.
come all the way up on a moving vehicle, like
Yeah.
I don't know how else you're gonna shoot that except having to show. Well, actually, there's three. There's three. There's like what's happening outside. The people hang gliding, and what's happening on top of on top of the big rig.
Mhm.
There's Furiosa, who's actually she was trying to escape, but then she ends up
Mhm.
having to get she gets dragged into the whole thing,
Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
because of all the things that are happening.
Yeah.
And then there's what's going on in the inside and basically in the cockpit or in the front seat, where the opening and closing the door, having to shoot outside. There's all this stuff going on, and so I feel like there was no choice to show all that stuff in a timely fashion except to do a bunch of jump cuts. And so I don't know if they're jump cuts, but they're just cuts in between the different
Yeah.
locations in this one big rig. So
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
that a plus or a minus? I don't know. There is something to be said for like the long takes and just watching stuff blow up and people get seemingly ran over in Fury Road in a way that was visceral.
Man,
It was just different in this one.
it was. I preferred it, to be honest. While that action sequence in this movie is long, was it like 15 minutes long or something like that? And it is entertaining. It didn't reach the height of the of Fury Roads.
Yeah. So
For
like if
those reasons, like I think it's just more
right,
like you like subconsciously know how much more challenging it is to capture like a whole variety of actions in like single takes and continuous shots
right.
and hmm.
So this movie is like, okay, if Fury Road is here and Taken 3 is here with that jumping over the fence, there's like 17. Okay, for context, I'm referencing something very specific. There's a
Yes,
scene, I think it's in Taken 3, where Liam Neeson is like running away or he's chasing somebody and he's running the best that a man at his age and his, flexibility can run, and he
probably
gets to
better
a
than
big
I will
fence.
at that age.
And there's literally like 37 cuts of him just climbing, jumping over. It's almost comical, like how badly,
It's
like
very
so many cuts.
yeah,
So like that's on the far extreme, and then you have
yeah,
Fury Road here, and Furiosa's somewhere right in the middle.
yeah.
It's not
I would agree
egregious
with
like
that.
Taken 3, um, but yeah, there's definitely a lot more cuts and a lot more things, a lot more kind of CG pan-ins and pan-outs and all of that stuff going on.
Yeah,
And so yeah,
I don't
okay,
know that there were
so
as many really major dynamic moments in this scene in this sequence also that like stuck out to me as with Fury Road. I can think of the guy coming in on the glider. It was a really cool scene, like him gliding earlier on in the
right,
sequence, and then he finally comes on over to the tanker, and then him getting like chopped up by the whatever the weapon was that they used in the back with the ball and chain, and then
yeah,
his
they had a
whole I
name for
liked
it. I can't remember it.
yeah, I forgot. I liked how it looked when his whole fabric was like tied up in that and it was trailing behind the tanker. I think that had a really cool
Right.
look to it. But yeah, besides that, there are maybe like one or two other moments. I think there was another moment where someone like from a vehicle like deployed into a hang glider or something, and there's a couple moments in the her yeah on the bottom, and something happening to her motorcycle, it like getting stuck and she can't fix it or whatever. And so anyways, it just felt as if there were more exciting moments in Fury Road, just within the microcosm of the fight. This fight made sense. There was cool stuff happening. It was fun when the dudes were like throwing their javelin grenades and everything, and it's
Right.
just I don't know. Just for whatever reason,
Yeah,
Fury
Fury Road
Road
set the
just
bar
had
pretty
some more.
high.
Yeah, it just for not only the fights but like exciting highlight moments within the fights.
I also feel like the claustrophobic close-ups were limited just to Mad Max in the front, kind of like propped up like this, like
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this one, it's like everything that was going on in the undercarriage required like a zoom in, and it's like for me, I don't like it. It gets really, really claustrophobic,
Mm,
and you're just waiting for it to pan out so you can see what's going on.
mm,
Because it's like you can only see like, okay, she has to disarm the dynamite. She has to do this. She has to do that. You know, the guy that caught her down there, well, he's about to die, so he's like, all right, well, here, take care of this.
yeah.
Um, Whereas, as I recall in Fury Road, everything was like a big wide pat, like a big wide
Mm,
anamorphic shot. When the guy's sitting there on his guitar and the flames are throwing, it's just like these big wide shots.
mm-hmm,
And so there's a lot of visual information to take in, but at the same time, I feel like when it's wide, it almost allows you to kind of sit with what's happening
mm-hmm,
more easily than if things are just so close up. It's just like, again, like there's a lot of cool stuff going on in the front seat of the car, but it's like really, really close.
yeah.
And it's like the difference between how Americans film fight scenes. Like it's like Jason Bourne. It's all like versus like a Chinese Hong Kong kung fu where it's like wide and you can see Jet Li
Yes. Yeah.
pum.
Super clean.
Whereas like, again, Jason Bourne is probably the most egregious example of a shaky cam, like well, what did he just
Mm-hmm.
do? I don't know. But he beat the guy. Like, all right, whatever. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Now,
Sure. Yeah.
The Bourne movies have some really good fight scenes as well, but it's always when
Yeah.
they pan out.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
that's something that Chinese and Thai movies have really mastered. If you watch the Raid movies, oh my goodness, just the
Yeah.
fight choreography,
Mm-hmm.
insane.
Exactly. It really
That's
is.
something
It's
that
crazy.
Americans can still learn. All
Mm-hmm.
right, so that what you were describing was kind of like a both and kind of good
I
and
know. It
bad. Let's
really
get
is. We
in.
can go into the
Let,
negatives. Yeah.
yeah, let's get into what we had issues with, what we didn't like about the film. I'll let you go take this one first, and I'll see if I agree with you.
Okay. So you touched upon this earlier, but the first big thing is I didn't need this story. I didn't need this story. Now the fact that the story exists, and maybe this is not a full negative, it didn't actually utterly destroy my headcanon and interesting backstory that I had for the Furiosa character like the Solo movie did. The Solo movie was just was horrendous. This I came out of the movie being like, okay, this was a version of what happened in her past, and yeah, it was entertaining. But I still was like, I didn't need to know this though. I didn't need to see this, and I think they oversimplified some things about the character. It's not fantastic when everything like notable about a character gets simplified down to one story. Now they kind of cheat, and this is another negative. They wound up doing basically her entire life. I was not going into this film expecting to get the entire life of Furiosa from when she was a child to like right up against Fury Road. And I think that's too much content. So that leads to one of the big negatives of this movie was super long and they didn't need to just cram in every last like chapter of her life into this film. Was it done well enough? Sure, it was done well enough, but it was still too long. It was still too much. But I get like they wanted to seed Dr. Dementis killing her mom early on, and that being her challenge throughout the entire movie. But that made it a vengeance film, and I guess in some ways it allows the movie to be standalone, but which is pro, but it's also a negative because I was expecting this movie to set up better relationships with other characters from Fury Road, like in particular, um, Immortan Joe. We barely got any relationship between her and Immortan Joe, and that's such a big part of the next film. So it's pro and a con. Trying to make this film its own thing versus connecting it. So it's obviously connected to the next film. Um, yeah. So too long. Didn't need to cover her entire life. I wanted more with the other characters that were the film is leading up into. Mm, there's some character motivations that are a little bit bizarre. Moten Joe, he's just presented to us as, oh, he's a big bag, he's a control. He does nothing in this film, basically. He's
Is
almost
that
he,
the scuba mask,
yeah, yeah,
bustier, white hair guy?
yeah. Like basically, the only thing he does in this film is he winds up making the deal with Doctor Mentis to take her, Furiosa, at a young age away from him,
Right.
and then he's like antagonistic. Oh, like we barely see him. We just know, oh, Doctor Dementis winds up getting himself into a situation where he's in control of the oil town, and that doesn't rub well with Morton Joe and his allies, and so we just know they're kind of against each other, and it comes to a head where, yeah, Doctor Dementis is making some moves to try and take over Bullet Town and then take over the Citadel, but we really just he's really just a plot device for there being friction between Dr. Dementis and wherever Furiosa is at the time.
Mhm.
Overall, yeah. That's what I'll say. Yeah. Well, how about you? Yeah. What kind of things
Okay.
didn't make you happy about this movie?
All right. So let's see. It was long. It was long, and there's things that just were just kind of weird and didn't make a whole lot of sense. Um, for example, when the mom goes to rescue Furiosa, like there's just things like she goes into a tent and kills the guy, and there's a woman. She's like, "Oh, I'm a mother too," and she lets that person live, lets
Mm,
that woman live, who then immediately goes and snitches on him, and that results in the capture and the death of the mother, and the
yeah.
subsequent capture of Furiosa.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if this one thing didn't happen, this thing that doesn't really make sense. Like, I don't know why you're having mercy for these people. You're going in there to get your daughter. That should be you were more than happy to like pick people off from a distance, and this person starts. Why'd
Oh
you even
yeah.
give this person time to like have a conversation? You got to
Mm,
go. Like
mm.
I'm trying to maximize my chances of getting out of this alive.
Well,
You know.
the movie makes it obvious why she keeps her alive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's just like, but like if she had a slingshot to her, like and if she let go of that slingshot, like the credits could have just rolled, and it just would have showed them driving away back to paradise, and that's the end of the movie,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, to me, I write that I put that in the category of like lazy plot contrivance.
Mm.
Um, like a thing that shouldn't happen given the context, but it does, and that's the only reason why you have a subsequent narrative story. Because again, if she had killed that lady, who she was no kin to her, had no relationship, no friendship, she's in enemy territory, like trying to rescue her daughter. Okay, so there's that.
They
Uh,
could have written it where she kills the lady and they still get caught another way.
yeah,
Yeah,
I would have been happier with that.
yeah,
Like, they like they follow the tracks or something. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Or somebody comes in to give Furiosa some more food, and they see the two people dead, and then they realize that one of the bikes is missing, and then they
yeah,
all go right.
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then a decision has to be made. Or well, do I want to lead them to the paradise, or do we want to go? And then we have to make other decisions. I only have so many bullets. Whatever.
Yeah.
I only have so many rounds,
Mm-hmm.
and Furiosa like hears her mom getting captured, and she runs back, which negates the whole thing. Again, she was a
Mm,
kid. She probably wouldn't have gotten that far on her own anyway. I would have preferred, for her to run out of gas and like, just be trying to run.
mm,
Um, for me, it kind of like undoes what I thought was the coolest scene from the trailer was like
mm,
just her just running desperately in the sand and then getting chased by somebody in a motorcycle. Like that visual is like really powerful.
yeah.
And like they just kind of like negated all that. I'm like, all right. Um, and then There's just some things that just don't make much sense. The whole thing where she cuts her hair and then rebuild a wig
Yeah.
on the off chance that the weird big brother that has
Yes.
um
Rictus.
less than noble, yeah, has less than noble intentions with this small child. Oh, well, I'm gonna grab your head because I did it that one time. So clearly I'm gonna do the exact same thing again. Oh, whoop, and then she just starts running like that was your plan to escape?
She was a genius, man. She saw it coming somehow.
Like it just like and then I'm gonna like hide and hold on to this thing, and then people are gonna go leave. I'm gonna hang on here for as long as I have to until people go away. Then I'll come back and rematriculate, but this time I'll be a boy. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
we're there's so many things that just have to be like that have to happen in order for that to be a possibility. I have to come across a boy's clothing that fits mine. But how do I do that while hiding when I'm supposed to be gone and nobody's looking for her? Like there's just so many things that instead
Yeah.
of dealing with like the particulars of that, you just see the hair that fell on a branch and then a time lapse. So we don't have to deal with any of the like the things that don't make sense first of all, I
Yeah.
thought she was gonna run away. Like, why
Yeah.
would you just like go back but then be a boy? Like,
Yeah, I feel like
still doesn't make any sense.
I feel like they could have easily edited out her attempting to leave, but then realizing like, shoot, I don't even know what to do. I don't even know where to go. How to Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that
weird.
kind of works, but it kind of doesn't work because she's like keeping notes of like how to get back on her arm.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
probably my big. Okay. That's the big thing I want to talk about. So she can read the stars. So ideally, like as long as she can escape at night, she should be able to get to where she's able to go.
Yeah.
The mom, like follow the North Star, follow the constellations, you'll get back home. So, but apparently at some point in her life, she decides to kind of like write down the coordinates of some sort on her arm.
Mhm.
So, number one is she's able to remember enough details to be able to do that. Why do you need to do that in the first place?
Mhm.
Um, and why just like bring attention to the fact that you have this very unique, illustrious tattoo on your arm? It looks like
Mm.
coordinates to somewhere,
Yeah.
you know? Okay, so there's that. Um, And then, she grows up and she still has it. And it's like it's supposed to be this big secret, how to get back to her homeland, the paradise, the forest, the
Mhm.
rainforest.
Mhm.
So then, they're doing the whole like they go to the artillery place, they get double crossed, and then they escape and they're driving off, right? And it's a cool scene, they're driving and everything. Um, I'll ignore the fact that none of these cars have any kind of suspension, so any kind of hard turn in sand would be the death of everybody. But whatever, that's a movie, right?
Mhm.
At some point, who's Hemsworth's character's name?
Dr. Dementis.
Yeah, Dr. Dementis and company in a big rig in a big monster truck. Like they ram into her, and at some point, like she's driving and she's holding the wheel in such a way, I forget, her arm is out with the coordinates, and it rubs up against the wheel of the monster truck, and like it just like rubs it all off, right? And then they crash, and
Yeah,
then
I
at some
forgot
point like
why she was reaching out of the vehicle. I think it was she was either firing or something. There was a reason
yeah,
why.
something. I
But
think
yeah,
she had a
she broke
shotgun in
her
her hand.
arm. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and then eventually, okay, so then her and the not Mad Max but Mad Max big rig driver, I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
He's captured and they're dragging him along, and then she's like hanging, and then somehow like she cuts off her arm and escapes somehow, some way. And
Yes,
I'm thinking like,
there's mhm.
so that part's weird, but what bothers me more than that is like,
Mm.
why did you even go through the trouble of showing me that she's drawing this coordinates?
Yeah.
Because number one, if she can remember the coordinates, then she doesn't need to write it down. Number two, like I was hoping that there'd be something where like she crashed or she got hit in the head and had like amnesia, and
Mm.
So then like she needed this coordinates because she banged her head as a kid or something like that, and she can't remember it. But all she has is this map, and
Yeah.
but it's like memento or something. She needs like these
Yeah.
little things to remember. But none of that was established in the movie in the
No.
story.
No.
So it's just like, all right, well, why did you even show me this? Like, who cares? Like, you
Yeah.
didn't really forget anything, and then you
I
end up
have
cutting that arm off anyway. You
I
know what I mean?
have to
Like
believe that there was a version of this story where either Hemsworth's character, Dr. Dementis, or maybe one of the other guys, it probably would have been Dr. Dementis, like discovers that and uses it to go back to where she's from. There had to
something.
be a version of the movie where something like that happened
Yeah,
because mm-hmm,
it all ends up being a complete waste of time, and it's a thread in the story because they keep showing her arm, and it goes nowhere.
mm-hmm.
Another thing that goes nowhere
Was
is
that
this.
a that's a red herring, right? Maybe that's what yeah, it was supposed to be.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a whole much ado about a whole lot of nothing ultimately.
Yeah.
And then
It was a
the other
big
thing in
cheat
this.
though for her to have escaped Dementis just because we couldn't see her. He had his entire crew like circling
They're like circling
circling around
around,
the vehicle, like. So,
right?
I
So she
guess
cuts
I
off her
guess the
arm,
second that they left, she like started beelining it. Uh
and
huh.
you know. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's that. Okay. Then there's like this seed that she's been carrying for her whole life, and like she puts it in her mouth or something for some reason, which it was just kind of
It's to give
weird.
it moisture to keep it alive.
Yeah, but like it wasn't. I mean, that's your guess.
Yeah.
None of that's actually established or stated in the
Mm.
movie.
Mhm.
So it could be. I mean, it's a good guess. It could be that it.
Yeah.
Um, but like I don't even think that ties into Fury Road, right? Because I don't remember there's a scene where she's planting a seed somewhere in the desert, right?
I
I
think
can't
there
remember.
was. Yeah, I feel like there was. I would have
Okay,
to
maybe I'm
look
wrong.
again. No, no. Actually, probably not. Probably not.
Right.
I think
So
yeah,
like,
I
again,
think that's yeah, I don't think so.
oh wait, no, 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 no. At the very end, she plants it in Chris.
Yeah, so that's the reason why I
In,
couldn't be.
okay, okay. So
Yeah.
okay, so okay. Never forget that. I mean, it's kind of weird, but all this hustling, all this bustling around. She was able to keep this seed in her head. Okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, it's kind
It
of
doesn't seem very plausible, but whatever.
it almost is unfortunately the seed in a way it yeah represents where she comes from, but in a way it also represents her. I guess maybe this is intentional, just making peace with the fact that she's never going to get back, so she's just going to establish a little bit of her home, wherever she deems fit.
Yeah,
um, but
I don't.
in a
Yeah,
way, like with her mom gives it to her to begin with, and she wants her to plant it somewhere. It's like it's her mom telling her you might never come back, so here's a piece of your home. Like,
yeah, yeah. It's just a lot of just kind of like just kind of like I feel like it's kind of like sloppy, incomplete storytelling.
mm-hmm.
Like there's pieces of things, but they never really connect to the greater whole, or they're just like discarded at a certain point, and you're just supposed to forget
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Okay, so she gets her arm cut off, and then
mm.
Mad Max, because he's driving the same car,
Mm-hmm.
it shows him on the top, and he
Yeah,
rescues her, I guess. But that
maybe,
creates
maybe not.
continuity. That creates continuity issues with Fury Road because they meet again, obviously. The movie's called Mad Max Fury Road, and there's no like you don't remember the girl that had her arm amputated that you helped bring back to this place.
I think the story doesn't make it clear enough that he helped her. I think it's very possible that he just watched, didn't do anything.
You don't remember that time with that girl with only one arm and she was bleeding out in the desert. Like
mm, fair enough.
it
Fair
creates a
enough.
continuity issue. It creates a real continuity issue with with
Yeah.
with, with Fury Road, and it's a
Yeah.
continuity issue that didn't need to exist at all. You
Yeah.
didn't have to show
Yeah.
him or anything. Like
Yeah.
it's like these unforced errors
Yeah.
that filmmakers make.
Yeah.
And so yeah, other than that, it was just long. And
Okay.
it's like if it's gonna be that long, you have time to flesh things out, but they didn't flesh
Yeah.
things out that needed to be fleshed out.
Yeah. Yeah. I did remember
So
two other
yeah,
things similar to what you're saying about fleshed out, connected to that. Well, one's not one. it was definitely plot armor for the tanker driver to come back and recruit her. And then they needed that to happen for the story because they fell in love. I didn't exactly need a love story. I was fine with it, but I really didn't
Yeah.
need it. I look the Bullet Town action sequence I did enjoy. Beyond that, I just remembered, man. Unfortunately, we don't get any time between her and the other women at the Citadel or whatever it's called to give her a true like drive and purpose to rescue them, besides them being women that are
Breeders.
objectified, yeah, breeders, used, they're slaves. So okay, with that, I can understand if that's all that we need, fine. She wants to rescue people that are captured because she was captured. Okay. I still wanted more time, more connection with them and her leading into the next movie especially. But if that's all they wanted
Yeah.
to if that's all that was necessary, I could let it go. I would want more. I would definitely want more. But if yeah,
And that scene was
slavery is the
yeah,
one
that's
issue, fine.
right. That scene was weird too, because like the baby gives birth and they're like, it's deformed. Get out
Ah,
of here.
yes. Yeah.
Get out of
Mhm.
here. You and
Uh-huh.
your misshapen
Yeah. Yeah.
eggs from your uterus. This is
Yeah.
your third strike. Get out of here. I'm like, this is weird. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe I mean,
Yeah.
this is a weird world, so things like that can happen. But it was just like
Mhm.
took out the baby. I guess it was stillborn and it had like three legs and two heads or something.
Mhm.
I don't know what the heck it was. It was like,
It
all
was it
right,
was it was like conjoined twins or something. Um
yeah. It was
uh,
just a weird scene.
yeah. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
unfortunately the scene you talked about earlier where the mother lets a woman go, it completely flies in the face of like what might have driven her to rescue these women, because that lady betrayed them. So then why would these women not betray her? Like that's why I wanted more development between her and
Yeah,
them,
that needs to be yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. And if she wasn't gonna, if the mother at the beginning wasn't gonna kill her, like take her, like if she like, oh, take me with you, I want to
Mhm.
go, right?
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
this, like, let's say it was a woman that disappeared a long time ago. Oh, that's her.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been waiting for someone to come and get me, and then they all get captured. Like, that would have been like really interesting,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So
Mhm.
anyway, those are like the things that I did. Again, aside from the fact, like, there are some stories that just don't require backstories. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, this isn't One Piece. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
This isn't Haikyuu.
Yeah.
Like backstories are like the blood, like the meat and potatoes of some
Yes.
stories, right?
Yes. Yes.
Or they just really add to the world and everything. But like,
Yes.
this world is desolate. It's bleak. Everybody came up rough. Everybody graduated from the school of hard knocks. Like, do I need to
Yeah.
know the specifics and the particulars of how you grew up? Or when
No.
Chris Hemsworth, when he was like, Furiosa kind of has him, at gunpoint or whatever. He's like, he was alluding to the fact that he grew up in like horrible circumstances. I
Mhm.
mean, if we're gonna commit to like flashbacks, this whole movie is basically a flashback. Just give me a little vignette of something that he saw when he was a kid to kind of put
Mm.
this all in the context. Y-
Mhm.
you know, that would have
Mm.
been interesting. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I did. If everybody comes from like crappy, everybody comes from a rough area, like, I don't need to know the specifics of what made yours particularly rough,
Yeah.
unless
Which
there's like a really really good reason, and that reason was never presented in this movie.
Yeah, which leads to
Yeah,
actually maybe a character problem within the film then. Because if everybody's in this cyclical situation of like being mistreated and mistreating others, and she's continuing to do that, being mistreated and mistreating others, I guess yeah, her wanting to rescue the other women is like the one aberrant sort of altruistic thing that's supposed to make her different. But there isn't, that quality doesn't really show up in this film for her in any particular way. that I can
Yeah.
think of like off the top of my head. So it kind of like it almost comes out of nowhere. Outside of like her mom was putting her life on the line for her, but that's like mother daughter situation. This is trying to that's the story trying to establish that she's going to put her life on the line for other people in the next film, but we don't really
Yeah.
get like we don't see those attributes specifically in her character in this movie. It's vengeance, and then it becomes particularly like a nasty way to get her vengeance by the end of the film with like the seed and everything.
Yeah. This reminds me of something else that, like, again, kind of you alluded to it. Like, we didn't need the love story or like the almost love story
Hmm.
with not Pedro Pascal, not Mad Max, uh biker guy driving a big rig, the
Yeah,
guy, because because they show you built they show them building this big truck, and he's supposed to be like the badass
Praetorian
guy,
Jack.
like
That's who he was.
yeah,
Jack.
sure, um that guy.
Yeah.
they, they kind of position, or they kind of like, they're building this big rig, and it's supposed to be like just the perfect complement to his big personality and the fact he gets the job done. And then all
Mm.
we do is see him fail, right?
Mm.
Oh, he always gets his cargo delivery through, and then we see him like fail like twice big, you know.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
and he's like, he comes back to get Furiosa. Otherwise, again, she dies out in the desert alone,
Yeah.
or and like why she didn't kill him there when they weren't really friends to begin with. These kind of lazy plot contrivances, like none of these people are nice, none of these people are good. Why are
Hmm.
you trying to like retroactively make them that way? It's like it's betraying the whole story in a sense, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
eh. And again, like with the Paradise birther ladies, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like there needed to be some a greater connection between them and Furiosa, especially if this is supposed to be a direct prequel to Fury Road. And yeah, the movie was just concerned with other things, and it wasn't concerned with showing us that. And I think that was also a miss.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why he did it if he's trying to focus on this other story, but it's inherently connected to that one. And so what happens
Yeah,
is if there is development between her and those characters, it still happens between these two movies or happened off
yeah,
screen while she was growing up.
right.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if important things like that happen off screen, then like why are we even here? Why did we make a movie? You know what I mean? If we're not going to show these things
yeah, it
anyway.
really is problematic. Now that I think about it more and more, it's like it's just because she she came from a place that she wanted to get back to, and that in her mind she and everybody else that are captured deserve better life. While I can understand that, we don't see the development needed in her character in this movie for her to
Yeah,
finally make that action, because she's living for a long time at that place, like hidden, and she's doing everything that she
yeah,
can to like do what she needs to on her own until the romance, which she doesn't drive away. So that's maybe like the one moment, big moment in the film in which we see her do something against like her own self preservation. um but again, that makes some sense for this is somebody she loves. Then show us why she loves and cares for these other ladies.
right. Because like when the mom rescue went to go rescue her, it wasn't just to rescue her, so that it's to rescue the whole Floston Paradise place that they came from.
Mm-hmm.
Because this little girl might end up spilling the beans, because she's a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, yeah. So this movie, I wouldn't say it was bad, and I wouldn't say it's a total miss.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like it's not quite. It doesn't justify its existence, um, and it creates a couple not absolutely ruinous continuity problems with
Yeah.
Fury Road, but they
Yeah.
are there. Maybe with Mad Max, in general. I don't know because actually haven't seen the first two or the first three Mel Gibson movies. So I actually don't know.
Hmm.
But yeah, it creates a few little issues with Fury Road.
Yeah.
It's not the worst movie. It's not bad. It's just like it's just not necessary. And
Hmm.
I don't feel like Fury Road is benefited by this movie's existence. Fury
Yeah,
Road could
they
have
could have
just
just been separate movies. They could have been separate.
yeah,
She could have been a brand new character, and I probably would have enjoyed this film slightly more
yeah,
because I wasn't looking for true like connective
the lines of
story tissue.
continuity, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it didn't this movie didn't benefit from having the burden of being connected to Fury Road. And so I, if you really really liked Fury Road, you should probably see it.
Yeah.
If you really like the world of Mad Max, there's enough of that that's in there. Um,
Mm.
and there's some really interesting scenes that kind of show like life in that world, like them people that are like scraping all the maggots off of the limbs and stuff, the severed body parts and stuff. It's like, ugh, you know. It kind of
Yeah.
shows you how bleak and brutal this world is, and so,
Mm. Hmm.
uh, so I mean, and like everyone spray painting themselves. I kind of like that from
Yeah.
the first movie.
Yeah,
You had
definitely.
you
Uh-huh.
had the little man that was playing around with it. I thought he was gonna do something cool, but
Uh-huh.
then he meets an untimely end. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
not little man. I wanted to see him do something cool. At least
Yeah.
go out in
Yeah.
the blaze of glory. But
Yeah.
eh, it is what it
Mm.
is.
It is
So
what it is, man. Well, cool,
all right.
dude.
So yeah,
Cool. Yeah. Thanks
recommend, don't
for
recommend.
okay. Yeah.
Real quick.
Uh yeah, look, y'all have heard everything from this, but if you're someone that doesn't care about story spoilers, look, if you're wanting to watch a good action film, I would recommend it. It's gonna be long. It's not just purely gonna be action, so you might want to like give it a
Watch it on
chance. You
streaming where
know,
you can fast forward. You can watch it
mm-hmm.
at like double speed or whatever.
That's true. Yeah, you could wind up doing that. If you liked Fury Road, I'd say give it a shot. But if you wind up ultimately deciding I won't pass on this one, I look, you're actually not missing out on anything.
Not a whole lot.
So
Yeah, this is only a watch for me. This is only a go see it if you're just a die-hard George Miller Mad Max fan, and yeah. Otherwise, it's a long movie and there's a lot of stuff that happens, but yeah, it's a backstory that we didn't need, and so yeah.
yeah,
Anyway,
hmm
you saw a completely separate movie you wanted to give a quick little review
yeah.
for.
So
This is
let
a
me take
movie I
a
did
let me
not
take a
see.
well, yeah let me take a quick break here, and I'll start us back up. Yeah. So thanks for joining us with this Fury Road live stream with the Super Cinema Bros. We'll be back in a half second.
Yeah.